The spring of 2026 in London was cold and raw, the air trembling with electricity, the crowds shuffling outside Parliament, as if huddled behind invisible barricades. The city remembered, not since the days of Edward VIII's abdication, had so much royal dread amassed under so many domes. Inside Buckingham Palace, the sensation was suffocating. Fresh bouquets in gilded vases could not mask the stale air of betrayal. Parliament's ultimatum, the vote heard around the world. At the epicenter, Parliament boiled. Rumors raced down every corridor, who had flipped, who still wavered, which ancient statute had been exhumed for use against Camilla. A new speaker, herself the daughter of wartime immigrants, read the charges with a voice carved from marble. Press galleries teemed with journalists, some openly in tears, others almost giddy. The vote was not a trial, it was a reckoning. In the streets, anger throbbed. Some held up Queen Camilla masks and wept, others painted her face on effigies and set them alight. Chants clanged against Victorian stone. The monarchy dies tonight. Justice for Diana. No more queens above the law. Police kettled rival protest groups, and ambulances waited on side streets, just in case. Cameras cut live to Camilla, alone, framed by the dull gold of a disused reception room. Her face, expert in composure, could not quite mask the ruin in her eyes. Tears threatened, but did not fall. The nation held its breath. The origins of a conspiracy, MI5, the old guard, Annan's game. The depths of this crisis lay far from the Parliament floor. Weeks before the vote, white envelopes, bearing no markers, only the royal crest in invisible watermark, landed on the desks of select MPs. Inside, intelligence dossiers, not just on Camilla but on her staff, her finances, her private correspondence. Some rumored involvement by breakaway agents of MI5, old loyalists of the late Queen, embittered by Camilla's influence, working to restore the true soul of the crown. Evenings in private clubs saw whispered bargains between civil servants, titled lords, and ministers desperate to keep their own scandals submerged. Princess Anne, the last great survivor of Windsor's Iron Code, became the keystone conspirator, not out of personal hatred for Camilla, but out of a cold, inarguable logic. She cannot stay, Anne confided to William, over whiskey in a snow-laced corridor at Balmoral. You know it, and if you let her, you lose the crown by inches every year. Camilla's flashbacks, ghosts and guilt. Even as the legal machinery ground on, Camilla's mind wandered, late at night, pacing the halls while the clock struck 12, her thoughts flooded with ghosts. She remembered Diana, a flash of laughter, then the pale silence of a world that would never forgive. She remembered her first illicit meetings with Charles, the terror and thrill, the nearly constant shadow of reporters behind the hedgerows. She remembered her own mother's warnings, never trust a dynasty, no matter who seems to hold your hand. Cut with these personal bruises were visions from the 1980s, the rage of the tabloid press, public crowds who spat and jeered, private moments of Charles stroking her hair and promising, "We'll have our moment, one day." And now, that moment, kingdom for a whisper, queen for a heartbeat, collapsed in her tightening chest. The fall inside, betrayals and empty corridors. In the final days, even the palace itself became unknowable. Elevators that once carried trusted aides now ferried strangers, temporary hires, plainclothes police, constitutional lawyers with faces hard as flint. The kitchens, usually bubbling with gossip, fell silent. Servants deleted years of texts and wiped hard drives, terrified of subpoenas. The palace Wi-Fi was abruptly upgraded and locked down. One senior butler, dismissed on a whisper of treachery, left a note on his desk, "Nothing is sacred, not even champagne." Camilla's closest friends, her dog walkers, her private secretary, her oldest dresser, were given 1 week's leave, for their own safety. Several chose exile, one sought asylum in Spain. The phones of the royal household, once humming with appointments, now rang with threats, hate mail, and calls from lawyers. Outside the gates, news trucks idled all night, engines shuddering in anticipation. The Royal Tribunal, a night of truth and fury. The night before the vote, the Windsors assembled in a room wallpapered with centuries of royal faces. William presided, with Catherine at his side, her usual warmth replaced by bleak, tearless resignation. Anne spoke first, unmoved and direct. "You divided the house. The house does not forgive." Next, Prince Harry, arriving with nothing but a plane ticket and a folder clutched tight, summoned memories of Diana's desolation. "This royal family," he intoned, "was meant to protect, not consume. My mother was devoured, and now you stand accused before her portrait." Andrew, sensing a rare opportunity, stayed out of the line of fire, his own scandals rendered momentarily moot. Camilla, bereft of allies, could only whisper, "All I did for him." Her voice broke, not with guilt, but exhaustion. Anne's eyes flickered, but did not waver. The final act, Parliament's thunder. Morning brought no reprieve. MPs filed into Commons, each knowing their vote would echo for decades. The Speaker rose. "Having read the bill, having heard the testimony, let us vote, not just for tradition, but for the nation's soul." The count was swift. The numbers, an overwhelming aye, rolled like a drumbeat of thunder. Outside, sirens split the dawn. Inside, Camilla slumped where she sat, the loss written in the inward buckle of her shoulders. The world reacts, fury, tears, and digital wildfire. News broke in every time zone. From the Channel Islands to Canberra, the live feeds could barely keep up. Queen Camilla stripped of royal status, unprecedented crisis. Social media spun new legends, some chronicling her rise and ruin in lush, tragic prose, others weaving conspiracy theories involving foreign princes, secret paternity, coded diary entries. Former palace staff wrote op-eds and gave tear-stained interviews. TV specials spliced Camilla's tears into montages of fallen empires. Protests and vigils broke out from Dublin to Manchester. In Brixton and Birmingham, royal memorabilia shops removed Camilla's likeness from shelves. Activist collectives printed "Rest in Power, Diana" banners. Students occupied university lawns, calling for republic. Camilla's confession and the threat of war. That evening, Camilla, isolated in her private suite, did what queens are never meant to. She spoke not from a script, but from the heart. "I have failed," she said, the national broadcast signal flickering as she fought back sobs. "And yet I beg you, do not think I was alone in my error. This monarchy carries within it fears and secrets too heavy for any woman's spine." She made cryptic reference to secrets yet untold, and letters the world must see a threat, or a warning. Buckingham's legal team was put on 24-hour watch. Cyber war rooms opened new protocols. MI5 notified of possible royal instability incidents. Exile and legacy, the aftershock. Days later, Camilla embarked for exile, not to a Mediterranean palace, but to a grey manor in the wilds of Cornwall, surrounded by a pared-back circle of partisans and protectors. Rumors immediately flew that she was preparing a memoir, that she had insurance files stashed with a Swiss lawyer, that old lovers across Europe were being contacted. Inside the palace, Charles began to wither, his public schedule reduced to photo ops, his real communications limited to Anne, and occasionally, William. The monarchy functioned on autopilot. Every statement passed through 3 filters, every phone call logged. Anne, William, and Kate became the new face of the crown. They staged public visits in hospital wards, in food banks, in rain-soaked northern towns, always with a hint of humility and pain. "We are learning," William repeated. "We are changing. Nothing will be as it was. The kingdom in limbo, end of an era, beginning of the unknown." And so, the most ancient royal house in Europe found itself at an existential crossroads. Parliament had proved its supremacy. The people had tasted blood and demanded more. The crown itself, glittering and immense, sat atop a crumbling foundation, triggered by love despised, by power mishandled, by an old woman's secrets buried too deep and unearthed too late. But nothing is final in royal sagas. Camilla's last words remained a sword of Damocles: I will not be silenced. The ghosts of this house will yet be heard.